What's going on, everybody? This is Captain Obvious. You guys are the 11 crew, and welcome back to another Minecraft video. All right, guys, what I'm doing today is a little different. It's not a tutorial per se, and this has been done a bunch of times before by some bigger YouTubers than me, much bigger YouTubers than me. But I'm gonna try and bring my own flair to it, because what's the point of having a tutorial channel or tutorials on your channel if you're not going to dive into some of the basics, right? So even if you've seen this before, that's great. If you know about it, then you don't need to watch it. You probably shouldn't have clicked on it anyway. But this one is going to be all about comparators and different things for it. Okay, so first of all, what does a comparator do? It's basically, it just compares things, right? So you have your main input, which is the behind right here. So if you're looking at it this way, it's like a little triangle, the two prongs, and then you have your light. Okay, the switch is going to go from, this is compare mode when the light is off, okay, and this is going to be subtract mode. I'll explain what they do in a minute, okay, but this is your main input right here, okay, behind it, so where the two prongs are, and then these are your secondary inputs on the side over here, okay. Now you could have signals feeding into both sides. I don't really see that too often. I've never personally used it in any redstone build that I have, and very few that I've seen have it with this, but the same principle is going to apply. But we won't get into that part of it, because you'll have to add both sides. Like I said, I've never really seen, maybe one or two builds in my entire life have I ever seen that utilize both sides. It's just not really done, so you don't really have to worry about it too much. But anyway, this is the main input. These are the secondary inputs. This is compare mode. This is subtract mode. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it means when it's in compare mode, it's going to compare the signal that it gets. Okay, so this would be the strongest signal. This is a 15 because it's literally the block right behind it. Okay, so 15, as you can see, all 15 of the lights are on. Right, then we got going down, you got 14, one is off, 13, and so on and so on and so on, all the way down to 1. Okay, so that's 1 right there. So when it's in compare mode, it is just going to compare the signal that it has, okay, to any signals that are on the side. If there's no signal on the side, it's just going to compare the strength and give it to you in the same output. Okay, different from a repeater. Okay, so when you have a repeater, okay, a repeater just takes the signal and makes it stronger. So even if it's a signal strength of 1, it is going to give you a strength of 15. So let's just demonstrate that really quick. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay? So we turn this on. You'll notice with the comparator, I'm sorry, 2. I guess I didn't do it all the way. Wait, did I? I guess not. So with a comparator, you'll see that you're only going to get an output of 2. With this one, you get the full 15. Okay, because a repeater just repeats the signal. That's all it does. It just takes the signal, a weak signal, and makes it longer. It'll just repeat the signal all over again. Very useful, obviously super duper useful, but not what we're looking for. Let me just actually fill this in really quick. Don't know why I didn't do that. That should be 1. I don't know why it's not giving you signals rather than 1. Anyway. Regardless, we'll just use up to 2 then. But that's what a comparator does. Okay, it's going to compare the signal strength. So if there's nothing coming in the side, it'll just give you an output based on the input. And that may seem like a silly idea, because you may think, well, why not just use a repeater or just put whatever you want right here? Because most of the time you're not comparing just signals. Most of the time you're going to be comparing things, because it actually pulls signals from items, which is another use of a comparator, which is the main use, in my opinion, most of the time, is you want to be able to take signals from things. Okay, so right here we have a furnace. There's no redstone ability of the furnace by itself. You add a comparator to it, you have some items in it, and then boom, all of a sudden, now it becomes a redstone block. Okay, so that's what a comparator does. Okay, and then we can get into how you can play around and adjust the settings. But anyway, so now what we're going to do, let's say we have a signal strength of 15, 14, 13, 12. Okay? Let's say you have a signal strength of 12 on there. Okay? So now what we're going to do, it's in compare mode. All it's going to do is compare it to the signal next to it. So if it's anything more, it'll turn it off. Okay, 15, 14, 13. And then when we get to 12, if it's the same signal, if it's the exact same signal strength going into the side, then the comparator will still work. It'll give you the exact output that you want. Okay, so anything that's the same signal or less. All right, so right here we have 15, 14, 13. We have a 12. Over here we have a 12. They're the same. It's going to continue reading from the back. Now it's not going to give you, so if we turn this off, it's not going to, it doesn't compare anything on this side. So if you have nothing behind it and you have a signal coming in on the side, it's going to give you no output. This is the block behind it, the main area right here that it reads behind it. This is where you actually draw your signals from. The sides are just to customize the signal even further. Okay, again, we're going to be talking about that in a bit. So once again, if we have a 14, okay, this is a 15, right? It's going to be more. Oops, let's turn this off. This is a 15. It's going to be more. So what's it going to do? Shut it off completely. We go down to a 14, however. It's the same signal. And boom. Now you're going to get the exact same thing. Okay. What does it do in compare mode? In subtract mode? Now what it's going to do is it's going to take this and it's going to take this and it's going to subtract anything on the side. So all of these signal strengths, whatever signal strength goes into it, is going to be subtracted from this one. So for example, let's start with the full one. Okay. Did I cut one of these signals off? I did. That's what it was. Oh no, I know why. I'm an idiot, guys. I should have used these blocks. It's because it's reading. You know how Redstone works, right? So if I'm a dingleberry, sorry. So if this gets lit up, it's gonna light the one up next. So I actually have a demonstration of that over there too. I should have used regular blocks for that. Sorry. So anyway, this is a signal strength of 15, right? So there's 15 going down. So now what happens if we put this one, it's going to be 14. There's only going to be an output of 1, which will probably show up as 2. Ready? Oh, it's not. It's actually going to show up as 1. Good. Okay, so you're going to get a signal strength of 1 because now it is in subtract mode. Okay. Meanwhile, if we switch it back to compare mode, we're going to get the full thing because the signal on the left is smaller than the signal behind it, so it's not even going to read it. It basically disowns the signal in compare mode. Okay, again, if it's the same, or if it's greater than, okay, if it's greater than, right here, it'll shut it off completely. If it's the same or less than, it'll keep it on. But that's in compare mode. Once you go into subtract mode, now it starts to do math, which everybody hates. Okay, so let's say we take 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. Actually, let's go all the way down. Let's go down to this one, right? That should be a 2. So let's go to this one right here. It's going to bring a 1, right? A 2 minus a 1 is a 1. If we go to 2 minus 2, it's going to be a 0. So essentially, these are like little calculators that you can use. So 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, right? It's in subtract mode. We're going to take away 3. We should get 7 lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to understand. Subtraction only has to do with the sides being taken away from the back. In compare mode here, now you're talking about as long as this signal that's coming in is equal to or stronger than the signal coming from the side, you're going to get that signal. Now, why would you want to do something like that? Why would you want to keep it like this where at some point this may turn off, right? So if this signal increases in any way and it becomes stronger than this one, well, then you're going to turn it off. Or vice versa, if we have this on the full, right? So if we have this right here, let's break that for a second, which I'm going to demonstrate over there anyway. But let's say we have it on a full, right? It's a full 15. The only time the lights are going to turn on is when this becomes a full. So I'll go to that and let's just do that demonstration right now. Okay, so here we have just a little silo, little crappy silo that I whipped up. Now the bottom one has nothing in it, but it just is comparing it. So there's the chest. Okay, the comparator is coming out of the chest. You'll notice that There's nothing going into this, no redstone going into the sides of comparators. I don't know if you guys were aware over here. It only reads redstone going into the side of it, or any kind of like you can put a comparator, a repeater going into it, anything that produces a redstone signal that directly outputs in that direction. So, like I said, a repeater or another comparator or redstone dust. Not a torch, and not this. It's not going to read this. It has to be that with a redstone, because this doesn't do anything. Same thing with a redstone block. It's not going to read that. It has to be something that directly puts an input into the repeater, into the comparator. So you can't put a block of redstone like this on top. It's not going to read that because it's actually the block that's touching it, not the redstone. Hopefully that makes sense. That's why, if you'll notice this way, I ran it like that. Okay? I ran it to where the redstone is feeding into it. And when it compares from the back, it can actually compare on a block, which again we'll go over. Okay? So hopefully you can kind of see that there. It's just reading directly from the chest. And there's no redstone activating it on the side at all. Even though when this turns on, it'll activate this block, the comparators cannot read blocks to the side. Okay? It'll only read blocks behind it. So there's nothing going in. So what happens? The second you put anything in there, the light is going to light up. Right? So we just put one item in there. These make horrible silos. Horrible silos, because this is not going to tell you when it's full. It's just going to tell you you have one item in there, right? Now the top one, as you notice, we're pulling out a signal from the chest, but look what we did here. Now we have a full signal strength. Okay, we have a signal strength is 15, and as we just learned, now it's comparing, so the item behind it has to be more than or equal to, right? And the only way we're going to get a full output from this, as you can see, this whole chest is filled except for one item, except for one itty bitty redstone, or itty bitty block. So we're going to come up here, we'll put one block in, boom, the light is going to go on. This makes a good silo. Okay, this is going to tell you, okay, now I have a full chest. So if you're looking at it from far away, you're like, wow, great, I have two full chests. Excuse me, I have cobblestone. I can build what I want to build. You come here, oh, I only have one. Okay, so that's where comparator signal strength comes in really, really useful. Okay, going on to this right here, this is what I was talking about, the light. Whoops, that's what I was talking about with the lights. Okay, as soon as you put something in here, it's going to light it up. But if you put the comparator is just like any other block of, or any other redstone feature. Like if you have a repeater into a block, what's going to happen? That block gets powered, but then it's also going to touch or power any other block next to it, right? So if you don't want all the lights to go on, you do something like this. You just put a block in front of the comparator, and then whatever you want to power in front of that. So what happens? We come here, we put one block in. Now it's only going to power the one lamp. Okay, so it treats it the exact same. Now, cool things about comparators, obviously, is they also read from hoppers, which again we're going to get to over there, right? So you put something in here. Let's just put in one item, and then you can do cool stuff with indicators. I actually had this. Looks like a little worm. I actually have the indicators in one of the storage room tutorials that I did on a previous channel, which I'm thinking about doing here. But it looks really cool whenever you drop items in. Right? So if you want to, like, let's say you put a bunch of items in, it's kind of like a status bar to show you that it's still working. And then obviously when it gets towards the end, you'll see the bar drop down. But comparators are really cool for that. I love indicator lights. Absolutely love them. Okay, let's say you want to split items. Right? Let's say you and your friend are sharing a base or something, and you want to kind of split the items evenly. Or let's say this is a farm. Okay, let's say this hopper right here is connected to a farm that feeds in, and you don't want to have all of the items going into this when you want to, like, send it down the line, right? Pretend this line is in here. As you can see, you could take this hopper line anywhere you want, maybe put it in another part of your base or something, but you do want to fill this one up a little bit, right? So what you can do, I have it figured out right now. So each full area here in the furnace is 5. And then obviously as you shrink this down a little bit, you can kind of play around with it and see what your output is. But if you just take this one out, which we're not going to do right now, but if you take this one out, it'll give you an output of 5. if you take both out, obviously 0, put 1 in, one full stack in, it's 5, another full stack in, it's 10, and then obviously when it's fully filled up with all 3 slots of 64, it's going to be 15. So I figured out this is a 10, right? Which is going to equate to once this one gets filled up, or once this one has any items in it, okay? So right now we got an input of 10 going in. So until this hits, remember we learned it's in compare mode, right? So which means anything that's coming out of the main part has to be greater than 10, right? So we need this to hit, or equal to. So we need this to hit 10 or more before this lamp lights up. And what happens? This torch is going to turn off. This one will turn on. It'll lock this hopper, which means any of the items that are in here are now going to go down the line or go to your next chest, which in this case is conveniently right next to it. Okay, so we're going to fill this up. Okay, we're going to watch it, and then we should start to see it go down in a bit. Oh, you know what? I put too much in there. Sorry. Yeah, I put too much in there. It's reading. It's taking too much at one time. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's put that back in. So what's going to happen is let's do a secondary hopper. Hoppers are fussy. Okay, so what happens is when you're dropping a hopper, depending on the signal, at least in Bedrock version, the Bedrock Edition, it's going to go 2 at a time. It used to only be 1, now it's going to go 2 at a time. So it throws it off. So let's do it here. Okay, so what's going to happen is as soon as this hits the number that it's supposed to hit, this will turn on. There we go. And now this one is locked, and nothing else is going to go into it. And then all the items are going to start to filter into here. Okay, so you could do something like that. So that's why knowing what comparators do, how you can manipulate them is very, very important. Okay, so let's come over here and see what things you can actually get signals out of. Okay, Cauldron will give you a max output of 3. So if we were to take a water bottle, let's say, if we were to take 3 water bottles, okay, you take a little bit of water out, it's going to be 2, a little bit more, 1, and then obviously 0. Okay, so you can find a way to use that in your circuit somehow. A lot of people hook these up to piston tapes with various amounts in them, right? And you can kind of do some funky things with that. It's pretty cool. It can also, like we were just practicing with the furnace, okay, you can also take a signal out of there. So again, each full slot is 5, so 5, 10, 15, and then you just have to play around with these smaller amounts to give you the exact range, but you can get anywhere from 0 to 15 with the furnace, where this one only gives you 3. This one as well will give you certain amounts, so you take a water bottle out, you get a 0, you put 1 in, you get at least 3. I haven't really played around with it, but again, you can play around with that. Keep in mind, this part of the brewing stand does not output a signal at all. So it's this part, this part, this part, and this part that will give you a signal. This one will not. I've played around with it. Remember when I was building that potion within a potion? I played around with this in the testing world for such a long time. It does not give you a signal. If anybody says so, they have not tested it, or they just assume they're right. They're not right. It only will give you an output of these 4 slots. So just keep that in mind. That does not count. And that's a big deal because I was trying to use this for a timing circuit for when it's done to reset, and it just would not, it doesn't pull it. So that's, you just basically can't use it at all. And it doesn't change when, like, you know, this ingredient goes into the bottles. It doesn't change the signal strength either. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, a chest, you can go anywhere from 0 to 15 as well. You just have to play around with the different amounts. Shulker boxes work just like chests. They're the same thing. So if something's inside, different amounts will come out. Music disc. Okay, so if you have a music disc, depending on which one it is, you'll get a different output. I happen to obviously pick a weak one. That's only going to give you a signal of 1, but they will work. However many music discs there are, I forget. Maybe there's 9 or 11. I don't remember, but I know that each one will give you a different output. So you can play around with that and also have it be a little musical, which is cool. As you guys probably already know, item frames on a block, okay, they will emit a signal. So if you turn it, there you go. We got the signal, at least 3, and then there's going to be 2 spots where there's not 3, right? And then boom. Okay, so you can play around with that. You guys know that from like the different vending machines and stuff. Those have been all over. I'm sure you guys know about that, but that's another one. And then obviously with hoppers, one of the biggest uses, I use these all the time. This is probably my number one use for comparators, is pulling out of hoppers, right? And that's very, very useful. Like I said, like I gave you 2 examples, right? And then again, comparators can actually pull from a block behind with the items. So here is where the item hopper is with the items. There's a block, and the comparator is able to read through the block. Another very, very useful thing to note when making compact circuits. Very, very important. This is a huge one because a lot of times you may want to reset a signal on a hopper. You may want to lock the hopper, and being able to pull something out and like put this here and putting a torch and being able to lock it like that, it's huge. So having that block as an extra spot to put down, let's say a repeater or something, or a piece of redstone, very, very huge. So that is a great trick if you did not know that. And then obviously it can take a signal from daylight sensors, right? So this will go from 0 to 15 as well. And yeah, it's just based on the time of day, right? So at nighttime, this would be fully powered because just in case you guys don't know how these work, we'll give you a little tutorial on that. Daylight sensors have 2 modes, night and day, right? So if you have it in night mode, this will get powered as the night increases. So it's like the strength of the moonlight, basically. And this one is going to be the strength of the sunlight. The higher the sun is, the more powerful it's going to be. And then it'll just start to get weaker and weaker as we progress to nighttime. Okay? This one is a little bit sillier to read from because if you just hook up redstone by itself to it, it kind of does the same thing. So it'll give you the exact same kind of output, so you can save yourself the headache with the comparator. But again, sometimes you might need to do tricks where you can read through blocks and put comparators because there's other redstone around. So it is worth noting that you can use comparators for that as well. But there are so many other uses for it. I want you guys to try and think what you can combine. Okay, look, knowing how the strength is, knowing how it works, knowing that compare mode basically means if the side is equal or less than the actual back, then you're still going to get that signal. If this side is greater than the signal that's behind it, everything is going to shut down. You get 0 signal. You don't even get like 1 or 2. You get 0. Okay. However, in subtract mode, okay, so for some reason, if any of your devices have redstone running into them where it's a powerful signal, you may want to just switch it to subtract mode so you can at least still get something out of it. Okay, so that's why it's worth noting that. You can also make clocks with it. I forgot to show you guys that. So you can make one of the most basic ones, right? There are smaller versions, but I like this one. So oops, that's not the right way. So one of the most basic ones is this. So if we just power this, I'll put this on subtract mode. If we just power this for a second, I think this is the way to do it. I haven't made one of these in a while. I didn't even do it right. I actually forgot. I did not even do it right. I forget how to do it. There's a way to make a clock. Is it just like this? Maybe it's like this. Yeah, it's like that. So if there's power coming in, it's just like that. Okay, and then you can take signals out of it. Now it's a little bit harsh. It's a very, very quick signal, and obviously if you turn it off, it's not going to do anything. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And one more thing you can make with it. These are really cool. It also basically saves power. Okay, so let's say you have a line of comparators going like that, a line of comparators going like that. You can make like a little battery really quick with it. Okay, so let me just show you. We will we'll put a piece of redstone like that. Whoops, with a light there. And we'll just press the button. Let's just get a button really quick. Doesn't matter which button. We'll just put a button there and we press it. Okay? And that'll just go on for a little bit and then poof, it's done. So it's just a little power source that you can kind of give yourself. it's going to be a constant output with the light, right? And that'll actually work out like that really, really well. Okay, so you have, just keep that in mind. I did that when I did my roulette system for the what is that called, the mine carts and stuff. This is what I had basically underneath. I had like a little battery cell, and that way every time you stepped on a pressure plate and you just held it down, it would charge it, and then you let go and it's randomized. Okay, so that's just another little fun use for it. And the longer you make that, the more it'll store. So just keep that in mind. You can have it go on for a while. But that's basically it. Those are the basics of the comparator. One of the most versatile redstone tools that we have. I use this in pretty much everything. It is so fantastic to be able to pull signals out of nothing, out of non-redstone blocks, and turn it into something and then use that for something else. It's just super versatile. So hopefully this helped in some way. Hopefully it's different than others. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. Either way, I'm glad I'm having it. I'm doing this on my channel. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. Until next time. Oh, real quick, actually, tell me what other things you would like help with. I know I posted this on Twitter, but I want to make sure I get everybody involved. Just let me know. Leave a comment down below. All right, that's going to do it for me. Captain Ives out. Peace.